All right, guys, once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast talking Auburn football. Go ahead and like this video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle. All right, so in the wake of the recent decommitment from Trenton Simpson, a lot of times the fan base, you look over social media, the fan base gets a little uneasy. What the heck is going on at Auburn? Auburn has to play better in order to keep these commits. That is not always particularly the case as to why a player decommits. Because if you think about it, Auburn is actually playing pretty good on defense, only allowing about 17 points per game. Upgrades at the linebacker position. I think KJ Britt does need to get his confidence back. I think in the last few games, especially with a little bit of exploitation in the passing game, I think KJ Britt really needs to get his confidence back and get that same mojo back that he had prior to the Florida game. I think that's going to be very important as Auburn approaches LSU this particular weekend. Down in Baton Rouge, 50% chance of rain down in Death Valley. We'll see how that turns out. But either way, back to the recruiting part. You know, it's not always indicative of a program in decline because, I mean, Auburn actually has still some pretty solid guys in this particular recruiting class. And if you think about Trenton Simpson, for example, only one visit to Auburn. As a matter of fact, that is the only documented visit that he has, period. And two, you know, I'm thinking he's looking at North Carolina at this point. I think that's where, you know, Cristobal says about 45% headed to North Carolina. But I think Trenton Simpson is going to be one of those guys at the high school table with all the hats in front with the dramatic signing day commitment. And who knows where he will go to that point. So I just don't think from the beginning it was a little iffy as to whether he would actually retain his commitment to Auburn anyway. Definitely a loss, though, because the kid is super talented. And Auburn definitely, although still pretty deep at linebacker, even with what's coming in, assuming that Wesley Steiner out of Houston County, Warner Robins, Georgia, assuming he sticks around, it's going to be pretty interesting how this recruiting class turns out. Definitely a lot of talented guys on this particular class. You know, also have some defensive tackles who are going to be visiting here in the next couple of weeks for the Ole Miss game, for the Georgia game, and Alabama. Very good opportunities for, you know, them to get a perception of the program. Hopefully Auburn does play well in those games, possibly winning, in order to have a positive impact on these particular recruits. But if you look at what Auburn already has, Tank Bigsby, I think, a huge commit because Auburn wants to continue to be solid at the running back position. It kind of took a step back in the recruiting of running backs, especially if you have a situation where, although unusually talented, when you have a guy like Boobie Whitlow, who was a midnight hour type of recruit, snatched him away from Tulane. It's easy to snatch a guy from Tulane to Auburn. But either way, I think Auburn has done a little bit better with the recruiting of running backs over the last year, especially getting DJ Williams was a huge one. And Mark Anthony Richards, as he recovers from his injury, will definitely be a huge recruit for Auburn as well. Now, when we look at this 2020 class, Wesley Steiner, of course, Kobe Hudson is absolutely having a phenomenal season at Troup County. Xavion Capers out of Denmark High School, Alpharetta, Georgia, 6'3", 195 pounds. It appears that Auburn is targeting these tall wide receivers, which I think is a good thing for the Tigers. Also, you talk J.J. Evans, 6'2", wide receiver out of Montevallo, Alabama. He's been committed to Auburn since February, which is pretty good. Now, a couple of great, out-of-state recruits. We're talking Chris Thompson out of Duncanville, Texas. Huge recruit for Auburn. And also Marco DeMio out of Texas as well. I think that's huge for Auburn to get these guys from out of state, especially in the state of Texas. And the current running back for Auburn, Cam Martin, is out of Port Arthur, Texas. So Auburn has had some luck there. And when you look at the offensive line, Auburn definitely needed to get a boatload of offensive linemen. It's kind of scary how scarce the offensive line position is for the Tigers. But I think the most talented guy out of this group is probably going to be Javion Cohen out of Central Phoenix City. Looks very good on video footage. Right now, a mid-range 4-star recruit. I think he probably could ease up into the 90s. He's right now at about .8937. So, very solid recruiting class. Auburn still, in my opinion, needs to add a couple of defensive ends, one defensive lineman to have a solid recruit. Also, probably want to be looking at a quarterback, another quarterback as well, with the possible, hope not, but you got to look at attrition, the possibility of Joey Gatewood transferring. Now, Gus Malzahn, coming into his 7th year as a coach at Auburn, has not beaten any of his big rivals, the big three, LSU, Alabama, and Georgia, have not beaten those teams on the road just yet. He won't have the opportunity to beat Georgia and Alabama on the road because he plays them at home. But I think this is an important game for Gus Malzahn. This is a landmark kind of game for Gus and his career at Auburn. Got to start a trend to where you're beating the big boys on the road. And, as luck would have it, you go into this game with a true freshman quarterback, a lot of talent around him, but his gameplay is definitely going to be important, and the positions that Gus Malzahn put him in are going to be equally important. I think if Auburn finds themselves with a 30 pass attempt type situation with Bo Nix, I think that spells trouble, because these guys at LSU, I'm not too sure if they're as good as Florida's secondary, but these guys are really talented, and they are young or inexperienced. I don't like the hell they are all young, but I'm really interested to see what Gus Malzahn puts together for Bo Nix in this particular game. Also, some positives though. I really felt a lot better looking at Auburn against Arkansas with the running back by committee type situation. It appeared to be a lot more solid running the ball in Boobie Whitlow's absence. I take nothing away from Boobie Whitlow. Superior, I wouldn't say superior talent, but very, very interesting how his talent has translated in Power 5 football. I was a little iffy on that at first. However, his running style is still a little sporadic, still, definitely a diamond in the rough as far as talent goes, just going off of raw talent. A lot of the skills you expect from a Power 5 running back at times is just questionable with Boobie Whitlow. But having guys like DJ Williams, Harold Joyner, Cam Martin, Sean Shivers, even Malik Miller, these guys are trained running backs. They have the vision that a running back tends to have and hit holes with a little bit more force than I thought Boobie Whitlow did. Now, we do need Boobie Whitlow back. He's definitely a talented football player, very good in the Wildcat, and, really took a pounding, willing to be that every down back. But I still like what I saw in Arkansas in giving Auburn the opportunity or the chance to actually have a solid running game against LSU. Because I think that's something that Florida was missing against LSU. And I think that put a lot of anxiety on Traskey through that late interception and allow LSU to open the game up. I think a solid running game gives Auburn the opportunity to be very, very competitive and could steal one in LSU. But I think it's time for Gus Malzahn to win against one of his big three on the road. LSU is the only opportunity that he will have because he plays Alabama and Georgia at home, which he has been successful in the past with. But I think it's going to be important for Gus Malzahn to find a way, to strategize a way to win a winnable game. I think LSU is a winnable game. When I look at Auburn, I look at LSU, I don't think there's that big of a talent gap. I think it's more so individual personnel like the quarterback and how Auburn utilizes its running game is just going to be one of the keys to this game. But Gus Malzahn's got to win it this year. He's got to find a way or else, it's just going to continue that disturbing trend. That's one of the reasons why fans are casually somewhat at dis-ease with Gus Malzahn because of his inability to win these types of big games on the road. Once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast Talking Auburn Football. Go ahead and like this video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. We got some more stuff coming as it relates to Auburn and LSU and other news about Auburn sports. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle.